And this afternoon's webinar is called Engaging Learners in VLEs. And those of you that watched this morning's, it follows on from there. So when you've got your site sort of organised, how do you then start to engage? What activities can you do? So let's just take a look at the aims and objectives for the session. We're in an unusual position of having our learners at home, in a position of having to learn independently online. And so this session is about thinking about the tools and pedagogic approaches we can use to motivate and engage our students. And I think it's an ideal and an exciting way of thinking of different approaches you can use, different strategies for learning. So I'm going to introduce some ideas that I would use in a maths class. We'll also look at how you can be supported after the webinar through the Enhanced Digital Teaching platform, and how you can evidence your learning with badging and get a community by sharing what we're doing together. So we'll be looking at all of those. I'm going to be running this session with Sarah. Sorry, I don't think I introduced myself. I'm Sally Betts. I noticed so many names from this morning that I just thought, well, you all know me by now. But I'm going to ask Sarah to introduce herself as well. She'll be co-delivering with me today.
Hello, everybody. Looking forward to another session. I hope everything is going well for people who are newly teaching from home and you're getting into your working at home rhythm, which Sally and I are already familiar with, aren't we?
Yes, we certainly are. Also with us today is Vikki Liogier from the ETF, who is responsible for the digital side, the technology side at ETF. And Vikki will be, and Sarah will be facilitating in the chat room and posting links to you and also responding to questions, etc. We will take questions at the end. If Vikki posts links, you might like to copy and paste them onto a Word document as we go through so that you've captured them. We will be sharing the recording with you, so you will get to see the recording at the end. Just check that I am recording, that's fine. Communication during the session. I think many of you have found the chat pane. Just in case you haven't found the chat pane, if you hover your mouse towards the bottom of the screen, you'll get a menu appear. One of the options is to chat. Please do go in there, introduce yourself, and ask questions via that method. We have got everybody on muted, and we are asking you not to turn your videos on just for bandwidth reasons. Sarah and I will turn our videos off in a minute, and again for exactly the same reasons, with everybody at home and working from home. And now you've seen us, you don't need to see us, you know which one's which and who's speaking. Also, participants, if you open Manage Participants, you'll see a list of the participants, and you can also use the communication tools on there. So if you've got a question, please do use the raise hand option, or if we ask a question that requires a yes or no, you've got a yes and no button too. If you're using something like a virtual meeting room with your learners, encourage them to use the go slower, go faster, etc. So can I just check that you've all found the managed participants and those what we call feedback status items by, thank you Jackie, you were here this morning, selecting the yes option. See, we're getting good at this, aren't we? The more we do it, the more people know, and it will work with your students too. It's really nice to see so many of you joining another one of these webinars with us. So manage participants on the menu bar, and then underneath the list of names that you've got icons, yes, no. If you click on yes, you get a little tick next to your name. If you can't find it, then please just carry on using the chat pane to ask your questions or answer. So I'm going to clear those statuses, and I'm going to turn off my video, and we're going to start, and we're going to run it in the same way as we ran it this morning. We're going to do a little role play for you, and we're going to carry on from where we were this morning. So, Sarah.
Right, Sally, I need your help, please.
Okay.
I've got my Moodle area set up with resources on there and routes through the learning. But what I really want to do is get the learners to be more motivated and engaged with the learning. Do you have any ideas?
Yep, I do. This is where we got to this morning, and this is good. You've got lots of support on there. Students know what's what. They can see where to go through your learning. So I'm going to go into Moodle itself. There we go. I'm into your course area now. And what we're going to do is just have a look and see if there's anything else we could do quickly. So I realise this is a time where teachers don't want to be creating a whole new load of work. And one of the things I would encourage is to get your learners to do more. So this is a time when your learners have perhaps got more time than ever before and could potentially be starting to feel a little bored with being at home. So let's try and make it more interesting, and let's try and get them to have a bit of fun in their learning. And one of the first things I'm going to suggest is that you do things like, and this might not help this year's learners, but you could get your learners to help next year's learner groups. So this morning we looked at the course glossary as a way of supporting learners with terms that you have on your course. Well, one of the things some teachers do is they get their learners to put the information into their course glossaries. And the way you can do that is you can send out a list of terms to your learners and ask them to find a definition and put it into the course glossary, to find a supporting link on YouTube that might help, or an online tool that might help. You can do things like that. Another way is to put a choice poll up with all the terms in it, and then you ask your learners to select one, and as soon as they've selected one of the terms, they've taken ownership of that term and nobody else can use that term. So it's a kind of, if you get in there quick, then you can pick an easy term. If you take your time, you're going to end up with the term nobody wants to do. So in my usual Blue Peter style, I'm just going to show you one I made earlier. So I'm going to just put this, you need to put your choice poll above the glossary. So there we go. It's above the glossary. And if I open it up so that you can see it, and again, there's quite a few of us on the site, so I might have to swap at some point. Oh, I can't see any of the responses because nobody's answered on this sandpit. But you can see what I asked my students to do was to select one of these terms, and how I've made it so that they can't all do symmetry is to limit in a choice poll the number of people that can opt for that particular term. So I've set it that for each and every single one of these terms, I can only have one person access it. Now, like I did this morning, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you another PowerPoint so that you can see the screenshots of how this kind of works. So here's a choice poll, and this is what it looks like when you set it up. So although it says glossary activity, it's actually in choice. It's the poll option in Moodle. And maybe I should show you where to find the options in a minute, just in case you weren't here this morning. But you set up your activity, you give the instruction of what you're expecting your students to do, you check the box so that that gets displayed on the Moodle screen. Ooh, let me just go back. You don't let your students update the poll or change it in any way, and you select the option, limit the number of responses allowed to yes, and you make it 1 for each term. So one person selects each of those terms. And I've used the same method, the poll, to set up tutorials as well. So that's something else you might want to think about. It's a way of, booking a time slot for a tutorial. If instead of having the words, you put time slots in there. So if I go back to the course page itself, we've now got them selecting a term, and then they're going to come into the glossary itself. Oh, I didn't want to do Oh, I did want to do that. They come into the glossary themselves and they add a new entry. They write the term that they've been given, they give a definition, and then they can do lots of other things. So they can find a supporting video and they can insert a link to it, or they could even embed the video into the glossary area. So following directly on from this morning, I was asked about Google Classrooms instead of a Moodle virtual learning environment that we're in today. And the person that I was thinking about was this chap here, Richard Byrne. He runs this site. So he runs Practical Ed Tech. He's a school teacher, so everything he does is for school teachers, but actually it's so applicable and usable across FE as well. He's got so many videos on so many different things, and he shows, he like me believes in going with the ideas approach, thinking about how you can do things, but there are all sorts of things for Google Classroom. And if you want to embed one of those videos, select it. I'm going to silence him. Come below the video and select share. Pick up the embed code, which is this code here. It starts iframe, it finishes iframe. Highlight it or copy it direct. So you've copied it. You come back to your glossary area and you have to open up the menu. So you only see the first menu bar to start with, but if you open up all the menu bars, then the very last option, the chevron style brackets, opens up the HTML code, and that's what you've copied, the HTML code. So you paste the HTML code in there. Let me give you a tip while I'm here. You may not want the video to appear the size it is. You may want to reduce the size. Make sure if you halve or 3/4 one of the sizes that you do the same for the width and the height. But you can do that within your code here. Just by normal editing, you can halve those. Once you've done that, you can swap back to normal view and you can instantly see that I've embedded my video into my course area. I do need to give it a name. So let's just call it, I know it's not attached to my maths at all, but I'm just going to write Google Classroom in there. I can put keywords in there to help students search through it. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just going to save the changes. And that is scrolling around at the top there. You can see the circle while it adds that video, and it should appear here. I think it might be actually blocked at the moment, but yours should just appear. All right, and you can put videos like that into labels, into pages, into wikis, into all sorts of areas. Sometimes it depends on the Moodle setup, but they appear on there. And that's just showing you at the same time how to embed a video, and also to tell you about Richard Byrne and Practical Ed Tech. So if you're using Google Classrooms, go and look at some of his advice, because that's what he uses all the time. And he runs webinars. Sorry, Sarah.
So we've looked at choice poll and we've looked at glossary. That would be good for me for September with the next learner group. What about knowledge organisers?
Okay, some of you may not know about knowledge organisers, so let me just show you one. If I can find a knowledge organiser to show you. I've got so many windows open, it's unbelievable. Okay, so on the Times Educational Supplement website are lots and lots of free resources. Some of them you have to pay for. And knowledge organisers, at this time of year, we would normally be doing revision, wouldn't we? You may still be doing revision, but knowledge organisers, if I highlight one, these are ways of bringing lots of information together. So it's like all your key information in one place. This one's about circumference and area, and it's for GCSE maths. Now, if I was using this with dyslexic learners, I'd be a little bit wary because it's very busy, but it could be set out in a different way. And if it was using accessible means within whatever document you're using, whether it be Word or whatever, then they would still be able to access it using various bits. But that's what a knowledge organizer looks like. So it has things like important ideas, it has vocabulary to do with the topic, maybe things like the key facts, the parts of the circle, a context where you might meet it, etc., etc., useful formula related to it, all those sorts of things. So how can I actually bring a knowledge organizer into my wiki? How could I get my learners doing that for me in my Moodle? And one of the ways you could do that is to use a wiki. I'm going to show you again. I'm going to show you, because I know that we might have problems if I open them up. I'm going to show you on screenshots. So a wiki, like Wikipedia, is basically just a shared document. And it allows anybody to write on it. Okay, so you do the same thing again. You call your, you give your knowledge organizer a name, you give instruction, you make sure that instruction shows on the page, and then you set up a wiki. So we're using a wiki for this. And you can see there are different views. I've gone into the edit section, because you have to give your wiki a name, and the first page a name, and the first page is really key, that you select a sensible first name page. It even gives you a warning message about it. I've used home here. One of the reasons for that is because you navigate a wiki using the map tool, unless you set your own up within the wiki, which, to be honest, I usually do by using lots of hyperlinks. But if you don't do that, your students navigate it using the map. And if they know the home gives them the sort of contents page at the start, then that's useful. You then write your text in the normal ways and the normal editing functions. And I've used a contents kind of style. And anything you want to be a new page, you put square brackets around it, double square brackets. And what that looks like for the learner when they log in is this. Okay, so they see it highlighted in a red color, different color, and they can click on those, and that creates a new wiki page. Now you've got a choice here. You could either create all those wiki pages, and you could ask individual learners to follow one of those pages and to work on it, or I would do it in pairs, because they could communicate with each other through means like this and through Skype, etc. So they could talk about what they were doing, and one of them could actually be editing the page while the other talks to them. But on that page, they could make a knowledge organizer. They could put all the key facts to do with that particular thing. You could do one page to give them an example, a template. You could even create a template on the pages, and then duplicate that so that they can follow that on their own pages. So I think a wiki could be a good way of getting students working in small groups. How about that for an idea, Sarah?
That sounds brilliant. Yeah. What else? I like the idea of some of my students being interested in vlogging.
Okay, yeah, because they could put videos, couldn't they, on those knowledge organizer pages? They could embed videos of themselves explaining something or doing something. Before I move off the wiki, let me just say a Moodle wiki is great as long as lots of learners can't all access it at the same time. It causes issues, okay? You do have different types of wiki though. So this is where you would find a wiki. It's in the added activity or resource. It's an interactive one, so it appears in the activity side. And there are different types of wiki. So you can have a shared collaborative one, which is what I'm suggesting here, or you can have an individual wiki for each learner. But here we're using the collaborative one. So a wiki is a good one, but there are problems with Moodle wikis, and that it's not really happy for more than one person to be editing it at exactly the same time. So if you've got Google Classrooms, using a Google Doc is a great idea. But even if you haven't got Google Classrooms, you could set up a Google Doc or OneNote. They're all collaborative documents that allow more than one person to share at the same time. So you might think about things like that. Coming back to your vlogging activities, right, vlogging in Moodle is slightly tricky, but actually one of my favourite tools is a tool called Flipgrid. How about in the participant window, you use your yes and no to let us know if you've ever used Flipgrid, just so I've got an idea of who's out there that's using it. So Flipgrid, if you've used it or heard of it, can you give me a tick if you haven't? Let's have a cross. So excellent, Vicky's heard of it, but we've got quite a few crosses. Joyce has heard of it. I wonder if you're using it, Joyce, as well. So lots of people haven't. Oh, let me introduce you to Flipgrid. I just really, really like it. So bear with me while I find Flipgrid. As I say, I've got a lot of windows open to show you lots of different things.
You're building the tension, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm building the tension. Here you go.
Marvellous.
Here's Flipgrid. So I'm doing shapes, I'm doing patterns. I've set up one called Lines of Symmetry. And I realised I didn't share my sound, but hey, it doesn't matter. You'll see me on this when I show you what we're doing. So I've set one up on Lines of Symmetry. And I've challenged my potential vloggers to create a short video of any object they like that they can find in their house or in their gardens, and state how many lines of symmetry it has and show me where those lines of symmetry are. And because I want to make it a bit sort of a competition and to allow some peer learning to go on as well, I'm going to restrict them so that they can only choose an object that hasn't been picked before. So we'll get lots of objects on my Flipgrid. They can do it from their mobile device. They just need to download the Flipgrid app. Okay, and just in case someone's struggling, I've actually put a link across as well to the BBC website so that they can have a look and find out what I mean by lines of symmetry. So I've built in some support there. So here we go. I did this literally just before the session. I'm going to show you what it looks like. So this is the students have come in. I'm looking at a student view. What I give to my students is a web link, and because I don't want everyone else coming on here, I've also set a password. So this is my class. I've set up a flipboard for my class. And if I click on this, you'll hear my video. Well, you won't hear it, but you'll see it.
You're explaining to us about your lines of symmetry.
So that was me doing lines of symmetry. I'm just laughing. I'm sorry, I've got to laugh. I've got a row of chairs in the background. I apologise for the state of my room, but I'm laughing because of the row of chairs. The table's gone upstairs because we have a second member of the household working from home, and he's stolen the table. It just looks like we're in a waiting room. Okay, so I'm going to actually let you, if you want, after this session, have a play with Flipgrid, as so many of you haven't done it. You can all post me a video afterwards, so I'll give you the instructions on how to get to this. But how do you do it? It's really, really easy and simple, and I kind of was set up with something to show you, but I've already lost that, which is typical. Oh, here we go. So I click the plus button. And I'm sure students will find this easy to do too. So I click the plus button and I select record. I get my 3 seconds. Hi, my object is this sticky note, and hopefully you can see it. I've drawn my lines of symmetry on. Okay, nice, hey? So I've recorded my video. You can see I've recorded it. If I didn't like it, which most of your students won't like their first attempt, they'll be doing it another one, I'm sure. I could redo it. Otherwise, I go to the next slide. I've whizzed through that because it played back in my ears really loudly. I now take a selfie. Hey, so I'm going to put this so that you can see it's the new one. I'm going to put that one on there. So I take a selfie, and that's an awful selfie, but I go to the next. It tells me don't close your window. Okay, so I need to give my name and my last name. Now this class board is limited to the people that I invite to it, but you could have, you know, usernames or something. You could just get them to make up names or whatever their nicknames are. As long as you know who it is, that's fine. I don't need to give a title if I don't want, and I don't need to give my email. And I simply submit my video. Congratulations, I've submitted it. As a teacher, I get an email to tell me that somebody has submitted their video, so I will know that somebody's done that piece of work, and that will eventually appear on here. And it's probably just taking a little time because we're on so many different things themselves, but that's how easy it is to actually create and post a video. Now you think about how you could use that with your language learning groups, or how useful it might be with English for speakers of other languages groups, or if you're teaching English and you want to work on the literacy skills. There's so much potential, but actually there's so much potential, I'm sure, on any subject area. I'm sure you could think of ways to use a tool like this. I mean, I'm using it for maths, so if I can use it for maths, then I'm sure you can think of something too. Let me just show you what that looks like from the educational point of view, from the teacher's perspective. So here I am, there's my lines of symmetry. So I'm now logged in as me as a teacher. I'm on the free version of this, it's free, okay? So I'm doing okay. I've literally just set this one up. So you can see I've made it active, but I could hide it. So they suggest if you're using Flipgrid for lots of things, you might have class intros and things on there. I've hidden those, I don't want those. I can get a share link so that you can all join my Flipgrid board, and I will post that into the, oh, why am I not using that big copy? I can embed it, look, I can embed it onto my Moodle page too. So let me just stick that in the chat pane. So when you've got some time, you can send me a link. I'm going to also give you the password. So just to make sure nobody else starts using my board, it's password protected. Okay. So you've got the link and you've got the password. Please don't do it until after the session now. I don't want you to miss anything. I can also edit it. Okay, so this is how easy it is to edit one of these boards. You give your topic, your activity a name. You set a recording time. So depending on what you're asking them to do, you might not want them to be recording for 5 minutes, but you might want to give them longer than 15 seconds. I don't think I did need longer than 15 seconds. You then give them the prompt. What exactly is it they've got to do? You can do all sorts of other things. Look, you can record a video, so you can actually give your activity as a video. You can upload a video you've made previously there, so you might want them to watch something and then do something as a result. Lots and lots of choices, okay? So there's lots of things you could do. If anybody's using Nearpod or joined the session the other day and started to think about Nearpod, you could make them go through a Nearpod module before you do anything, okay? You can give tips and things. I gave them the attachment to get some support. And then look, you can do masses of other things. I haven't set much, but you could moderate the videos before you allow them, but you know your students better than me. So I'm trusting you to all post something sensible. You could let students reply to other people's posts. You can put, there's my active part there. You can allow them to have things like likes. So I've allowed likes. So if you like somebody's video, you can say, yes, I like that. You can also allow them to do a little bit of editing. So they can trim and rearrange video clips with the editing tools. I haven't turned that on. If you don't like your little clip, you'll have to redo it in this instance. Okay, so it's not hard. And that sets it up, and you've then got a Flipgrid board. So what does that look like within our Moodle area? So let me just come back to the sandpit. And here's one I've done earlier. I didn't embed this. You can see I've embedded a Padlet, but I haven't embedded this. Let me just move up a little bit. It's a bit slow. Just come up. I've put it there as a link. Now, this is a bit of trial and error. It's a bit of getting, well, it could be anywhere. So I've got something on tessellation. Let's have this activity in there. And you can see it's hidden from students. I'm going to show it so students can actually see it on your page, Sarah. And I should also open it up so that you've got the description of what they need to do. But I've put it in there as a URL as opposed to actually embedding it. And I started by embedding it in the same way that you would do a YouTube video. The reason I changed it is because there's something within the embedding of that flip grid that this particular Moodle didn't like. So it came up as a white page. So sometimes that's a bit of a trial and error with your Moodle to see what it'll show you and what it won't. But it's fine to send them off with the actual, you know, from a link. It's just as easy to show them from a link. And if you're not sure how to do a Moodle link, go to the activities and resources, give your name, put in the link that I put into the chat pane, make sure you give the description. It's really important in this case because that's where I've given them the password, and make sure you check the box to display that on the page. So Flipgrid, I hope you all have a go, and I hope you all actually like it as well. It's definitely one of my favourite tools.
Looking forward to having a play with that. Thank you. Do you have an idea of something that they could all work on at the same time?
Yes. I mean, they could all be doing their Flipgrid at the same time.
Yeah.
But something that I also use quite a lot, and I think it's a good way, again, of motivating learners and to get them to collaborate and share and build things. I use it quite a lot for project work, is to use Padlet. So I'm going to ask in the participant list again, once I've cleared all your previous responses, can you use yes and no if you've used Padlet before? Ah, look, we've got lots of users of Padlet. Yeah, I think they're great. There's a few that we haven't seen it, so we're about half and half, I think. Okay, maybe a few more that have used it than not. Now, quite a lot of people use Padlet as a repository for resources, so to support their learners, but I think it's got real scope to make it into activities. So I'm going to show you an activity, and actually this time I'm going to just highlight this and bring it into the main page. Sarah's page is growing as we speak.
It is.
It is, yeah. So I've embedded, just to show you that this is one of the tools, I've embedded it really small on the page, but actually in the top right hand corner you can open it in a new window anyway. I think I've already got it open, so I won't click on that again, I'll go to it. But I've done it because I'm teaching maths. I've done it as a Fermi question. I wonder, I'm going to clear those, so while I'm going to it, you can let me know whether you've ever heard of a Fermi question before with the yes and no buttons. I don't think I do have Padlet open, so I am going to have to open it from the Moodle site. So while I do that, you let me know whether you've got whether you've ever used a Fermi question. Oh, lots of no's this time. Oh, we've got one yes, but I don't know who it is because I don't know who MG Lab 3 is. If you want to let us know your name, that's fine if you don't. You can hover next to your participant name and you'll get a more option and you can actually rename yourself. But Fermi questions are a great way of posing something which makes your learners think, and it's from the person Fermi, the idea that comes from it. So it's a kind of, it really makes them think about the subject, and actually there's no correct answer. It's one of those, there's no correct answer, you've got to actually think through. It's a bit like problem solving and thinking about that. So on here, you can see that the question I've got is on tessellation, and I've posed this to my learners that you are asked to come up with a design to tile your bathroom that will both be interesting and not empty the bank account, okay? So what things do you need to consider? And the things they might need to consider are the size of the room. So we've got to be cost effective. So size of room might be important. As a follow-on, because I know how creative my students all want to be, I've also asked them to post an image of the particular design. So once they've come through all these, what they need to consider, remember this is maths, so I want them to think about those maths things, whether the tiles they select tessellate or not, etc. And I then want them to come up with the design. For anyone that has used Fermi, give an idea, give us sort of a question that you might have used with your learners as well in the chat pane so people can see those sorts of ideas. How do you use Padlet? Okay, so let me show you. You click on the board, you write the title of something. So what are we doing? I've forgotten already. Oh yes. So they might need to consider, do the tiles tessellate? Oh, if I could spell tessellate, that would be good. Now I could write something here. So I could do my, writing. I could upload something. I could link to a website. I can send something from Google, or I could snap something. I've got all sorts of different options that you can do. So you can actually do videos into these and all sorts of things as well. So it's a little bit like Flipgrid in the sense that you can upload your audio recordings, or you can upload films, etc., or voice recordings from your microphone. I think Flipgrid's great for video though, because it's so easy. But this one works as well. Now, once I've done that, I can also do this. I can say, oh, actually, that's the first side of that. I need to connect that to another post, and the one I'm going to connect it to is that one. So you can have them linking ideas together. And that's not taken much effort from me as a teacher. I've had to think of my very short Fermi question, style question, and then my learners have got to do all the thinking and the posting and the collaborating and the sharing ideas through it. And they've got to do a bit of practical activity to show me whether that's a bathroom design I like or not. And because I've allowed rating on it, we can choose which is the best design and whether we like it or not, and we can comment on it as well. So it's a whole very collaborative activity. I'm just going to check the chat pane to see if we have got any other ideas about Fermi.
And it's called Fermi question.
It's a Fermi style question. Google Fermi style questions and you'll find it. But the resource I'm actually using to do it is Padlet. And I don't think I logged into this Padlet, so I just need to log in so that you can see what let me just check that I didn't already log into Padlet. No, I didn't. Okay, that's fine. I'll just log in. So you can log in through your Google account, your Microsoft account, or your Apple account. I didn't. Oh, there's my other halves. I might just stop sharing just in case. I'll leave Sarah to talk to you while I log in.
You might be oversharing there, Sally.
It's all right. Before this video goes out to the world, I'll just blur that bit out. I've got to remember my login details. That's the hardest bit. 2 seconds and I'll be there.
So we've looked at Flipgrid and we've looked at Padlet and the Fermi style questions.
Yeah.
And what else have we looked at? And the choice poll and the glossary and the knowledge organisers. Oh, we're whipping through it, aren't we? And the wiki.
I know, we're doing really well. Okay, but I haven't shown you the rest of this yet. So here's the other side of Padlet for those of you that haven't used a Padlet before. So there's the one I produced. And I've got various settings, and you can go back at any time and change the settings. So if I didn't like something about it, I can change it. So you give it a name, you give it a description, you can put emojis on it, but I'm not really an emoji person.
I quite like that, all these little tiles in the background. Looks like we've already done a bit of tiling.
Okay, well, while we're all here, I'm going to give you, I don't think I've password protected this one, so I'm coming into the chat pane when I can get the chat pane open. And I'm just going to give you the address so that while we're all here, you can, can't get into the chat pane. Maybe I can private message you, Sarah, or I can send it into the, yeah, I might have to private, I can't private message you either. Oh, I know, I'll post it onto the board so that you can see it. There's always a way, isn't there? I wonder if anyone can actually pick that up from the board itself without retyping it in. And while you're trying to do that, let me just see if I can find where my chat pane's gone and why I can't open it. No, I definitely can't. And close my, do you know what? It was hiding under my participant list, so I can type it into here. There you go. So anybody who wants to come and join me on the Padlet board, I can delete that message. You don't need it on the board, so I can delete it. Ask me if I want to delete it. You might be able to actually post your thoughts onto my Padlet board as well. Once you're on it, it should open in a new window if you click on that link. And you can double click on the board, or you can click on this plus sign and add a post. If it doesn't work because I've accidentally password protected, I'm sorry. Oh no, look, we've got lots of them now. Excellent. Let me move you around a bit. How much money I've got. Oh look, we've got all sorts coming on here. How much money I have in the bank. Yeah, that's true. Joyce is testing. The cost. What budget have you been set? Yeah, all sorts of things like that. The size of the tiles, if any, that's another one, isn't it? So we've got a few examples. So people have shown that you can use Padlet, and you're more than welcome to carry on doing that. I'm just going to find, I'm very aware of the time, so I'm going to just find the Moodle page again, which is hidden somewhere. Actually, it's on the same thing. It's here. So
Looked at Padlet and all this. Yeah. What about assessments?
Okay, so in Moodle itself, there is a quiz tool, and again, I'm going to show you from screenshots because it's the easiest way. This is the list on our Moodle site, and this is a standard quiz list for all the options that you've got available to, and there is some repeat because the top ones on this side are on the other side, but all the options you've got available in choice of question type. So some are specific to maths, but you've got gap fill exercises, cloze exercises, essay questions, which you would then have to go in and mark before they got their grade. You've got standard multiple choice and multiple select. You've got matching. You can do random short answering questions, normal short answering, true, false. So there's a whole choice of questions in there. Can I just reiterate though that if you're going to use quiz, please do add in that extra support. And I showed this morning. Use the overall feedback to make boundaries of their results. So, you know, your results go from 0 to 100% in a quiz, but set boundaries. So between 80 and 100%, you allow them to carry on. 50 to 100%, you give them one sort of support maybe, which in this case is to link to a video. 0 to 50%, you actually might want to talk to them and invite them to a tutorial in a space like this. So do bear that in mind. Moodle support and Moodle YouTube channel have got lots of videos taking you through each and every one of those sort of quiz types. Some of the maths ones, if I go back to this one, some of these calculated questions in maths are quite tricky to set up. And that is one thing I would say, that quiz is a hard tool It's one of the hardest tools to set up. So if you haven't used Moodle Quiz before and you want to make it slightly more engaging than simply using formative assessment, although your quiz questions can involve video and audio and going off and looking at a URL, don't forget about those sorts of things as well. What you might want to do instead though, and again I'm trying desperately to find it on my open browser windows, is to use something like this, which is a Kahoot site. So there are Kahoot, there's Socrative, there's Edpuzzle, lots of online tools that you could use with learners. I've got a restless dog. I'm sorry if you can hear him walking around. Maybe
some technology there, a restless dog.
No, it's not. It's an actual dog. So anybody use Kahoot out there?
Yes. Are we yesing and knowing on the...
Yesing and knowing, so I've got an idea. Yeah, lots of you have, and I am aware of the time, so I might not take you through Kahoot itself, but it is, I think the people in the chat pane will agree, it's a useful one, and I know that we linked to it from the EdTech Enhance platform as well. We've got a direct link to Kahoot. I was going to take you through a Kahoot, but I am very aware of time, and I do want to just show you the enhanced site as well. And I also, one of the great things about the Kahoot, if I went into name that technology, for example, this is the teacher side of it as opposed to anything else. You get reports, you set up questions which are nice and easy to set up. I'm just closing everything so I can see my own board. I've used images in here, so it's all about what is it. You get a choice of questions to answer. But when the person plays the actual quiz, you can put in timings and they get scores depending on how fast they answer. So you've got that gamification. You can see my times down the right-hand side, the 20 seconds. And you can get your learners to go up to the top of a leaderboard and things like that. So it adds that element of gamification in there. So, you know, have a look at some of the online tools. Kahoot, Socrative, I think are the most commonly used ones. Right. Go to kahoot.com if you want to create a new account. If you just Google Kahoot, you might think it's not a free version. There is an element of a free version there. So go to kahoot.com to log in. Okay, so anything else, Sarah? Oh, we're talking about gamification, aren't we?
I've heard I could use badges. What's this?
Okay, badges are a way of adding a bit of sort of evidencing your learning, awarding learning. So they're not really gamification, but you could potentially put in element of gamification, you know, who can be the first to get their badge and all those sorts of things, have a leaderboard of badges. Yeah. If I come to the whole course editing area of my site, and I come to the more element, so I've gone back into my site and I've edited at the top, the very top, you can see in our Moodle that we enable badges, and I can add a new badge. And adding a new badge is as simple as uploading a small photograph, making it a badge that's course specific only. I wouldn't do it so that it's a badge that they can take with them as evidence of learning elsewhere, but I can set them within my own course. So I give a name, I upload an image, and the image has to be of a certain file size. I think it's quite small. It's something like 100 by 100. You give in your email address and whatever. It's you that's saying, yes, you know, that's your badge, and you create the badge, and then you have to manage your badges. And by managing your badges, it's not going to let me because I haven't created one. But if you, and I haven't done a screenshot of this either, I'm so sorry. But if you manage the badge, it means that you're attaching it to certain things. So I might attach it in mine. You can get a badge for getting through the quiz, or uploading a piece of coursework, or having something on the Flipgrid. So I can attach a badge to an activity, and once they pass that activity, they get rewarded with the badge. So it's a way of adding those in. I can show you a bit more about badges because I can show you them on the EdTech site. If you bear with me while I find the EdTech site, because we've got them here. So supporting you and your CPD, we've got the Enhanced Digital Teaching Platform, and that allows you to learn in bite-sized chunks, and at the same time you can earn badges. At the moment the badges are only available in the accessibility and dealing with difference and diversity section, but actually you should be starting with those sections on any online learning that you're doing, to make sure that it is accessible and inclusive. Let me show you a little bit around this site. So this is the platform. I can see my own learning in this area. I can see what I've been up to, where I am, what my next badge is that I'm working towards, okay? But I can also see what sort of options I can learn in. So we're doing EdTech. There's also the Essential Digital Skills area, which allows you to learn all sorts of skills as well in there, that supports the Essential Digital Skills program for learners. If I open up the EdTech area though, you can see all these different areas that you can learn, bite-sized learning about digital learning. And one of those is the virtual learning environment. And I showed this morning because there's a section in there about supporting and guiding learners. There's also a section about embedding content. And if I select that, it's well thought of. It's already been recommended. It's got 4 stars. People's reviews, they've given it 4 stars. So you see the aims, the objectives, you see where it fits on the digital teaching professional framework, which I'll come to in a minute as well. You can see what badge you could earn, what level badge. So this one's at adopting stage. If I launch it, and I'll explain those in a minute too. If I launch it, here we go. I get to learn more about what this piece of learning is going to cover. I get to watch a very short video. If I stop the video, you can see 2.5 minutes, that video. So it's an overview, but it also gives an idea of in practice about something that you could embed. If you prefer or you need, there's a transcript. Some people prefer to read it than watch the video. Checking your learning. Again, it's all good framework for how you learn online. Checking your learning through an activity. An ability to add some reflective notes, which you can download, so you can keep. So download, a recap, a summary. You need to work through that so that the system knows you've finished. It's only 4 points, 4 quick, short points. And then also, really important, further resources that you can use. So you've learnt some ideas, like we've learnt some ideas today. How do I actually do that? What do I do? Where do I need to go? What was she talking about? I've forgotten already. Here are some things that you could do, and there's some more choices. H5P, another great resource for creating learning modules and building in assessment. And it takes you to it. It tells you a little bit about it, and it gives you a link to it. I'll keep talking about Edpuzzle. We've seen Padlet, so there you go. It takes you through to Padlet. So that is the Enhanced Digital Teaching Platform. If I can find somewhere in this my original PowerPoint from today. I don't know why I'm not still in slideshow mode, but if I go back, I can show you it a little bit more. So I'll go back into slideshow from here. Oh, didn't come through. Oh, maybe it's the next slide. There we go. Oh, so here we go. The Enhanced Digital Teaching Platform, which I now know you've got a link. It is at 3 levels, and it fits within the Digital Teaching Professional Framework. So there are lots of sections. They're categorized. The one you'd be looking for is the VLEs, which fits into Framework B, Teaching Context Fully Online. Different stages. So when you look at individual modules, they are color-coded. Exploring, getting to know, raising your awareness. Adopting, learning to put things into practice for yourself. And then leading, showing others, helping others. Leading by example is the way I always think about it. So, you know, maybe holding your own webinar and showing someone how to use Kahoot. So, as I said, badges are in the accessibility and the inclusion area. Supporting this VLE this afternoon, when you get the recording, you'll see these modules. These are particular modules I think are useful for making learning on a VLE interesting, very active, proactive, and different. I mean, I think this is a great time for us to start to think about offering different ways of our students learning. So you'll find lots of examples across the site. You can earn those badges. How you earn the badges. This is accessibility. Okay, so at the moment the badges are on accessibility and they're dealing with difference and diversity. We're piloting them. If you could try and do some before March the 30th, which I know is very soon, then we'll get an idea of how well it's working before we do the rollout, plus you'll be evidencing your learning. I must say you need to register on the site. You can do all the learning, but if you don't register on the enhanced platform, it won't capture that and you won't be able to do the badges without registering, so do register. So exploring, you complete a cluster of those learning modules. In exploring, there are 6. When you complete all 6, you'll earn your accessibility 1-star badge. If you then reflect on that learning for adopting, so you do the cluster of adopting and you reflect on it, you can earn a 2-star badge. Oh, I should be down in adopting now, 2-star badge. If you then do leading, the cluster of resources associated with that, you post a resource to show that you are leading or give information about that resource that you've made. You might not be able to share a webinar, but do you know what I mean? Tell us about the activity that you've done and how it went with your learner group. Then you can work towards a 3-star badge. And as I said, you'll find out where your badges are in the My Learning part of the site. Why do it? Well, reflecting on your learning is good. We know that, we're all teachers, so we encourage our learners to do it. We should be doing it too. If you reflect and then actually apply what you've learned or the ideas you thought about while you were learning, it helps with metacognition. It provides and fosters a growth mindset. We want to support you with your reflections. Please use this idea with your own learners, scaffolding their reflections. You probably already do. So we ask you particular questions and we give you sort of an idea of the word count. One of the questions this morning was, do you have to stick with the word count? Some of them are quite small. No, you don't. You don't have to stick to the word count. Please, if it says sort of that kind of amount, that's the level of detail we want. If you want to tell us more, then fine, you can do. Why do it? What will happen if you do it? Well, we'll give you some supportive feedback. So we'll feedback on what you've written and we'll also give you suggestions, okay? And where do they go? Where do these reflections from resources go? Well, on the site is an awarded practice area and they get shared on there. You can choose not to share your reflections, but if you post a resource, then it will automatically get shared with us. What we're trying to do is foster that community so that we can have discussions on the awarded practice area as well. So I hope you find that that is a useful idea and that you want to do it as well. You can search, if you're then looking for something as we build this and it develops, if you're looking for something like me in maths, you want to go and look in the curriculum area for maths, you can filter it. So there are filters on this as well. So this is actually the last one of the 4, but all 4 of the webinars have been recorded and are being shared. So you will be able to watch any of the previous ones as well. That's what I hoped we'd cover. I hope we have covered that. If you want to contact me after the session, please do. Please email me. I can always pass on questions I can't answer to the relevant person. I'm going to open up the chat area so that I can see, and I'm going to ask Sarah or Vikki to let me know if there are any questions that I've missed.
I don't think there are. I can't see any questions that hasn't already been answered either by you or by Vikki in the chat area. Vikki, have I missed anything? No, I don't think we have.
Okay, so I've come back into the room and I've turned my video on. So excellent. Well, in that case, if you don't have any questions, actually, can I ask if you have got a question, then please just use the feedback status and raise your hand so that we know you're typing one in. Otherwise, I think it's lunchtime. I'm going to stop the recording now, or in a second.